The Clement Manyathela Show, live at the 2025 Resurgence Conference, Durban. Opportunity for growth awaits.
As you've been hearing from Eyewitness News this morning, Joburg Water is expected to begin the construction of a new pipeline this morning meant to assist with the supply of water to Westbury and the surrounding areas. And of course, this follows the tense community protests that we witnessed over the last 2 weeks when residents clashed with police over calls for officials to account for their water woes. Parliament has also come in here because the mayor of Johannesburg and even Joburg Water have been given about 14 days or so to present concrete solutions to alleviate ongoing water supply disruptions that have left many residents without water for a prolonged period of time. Dada Morero is the mayor of Johannesburg, joining us on the line. Mayor, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to your listeners.
Let's start with the promise that you made to these residents that have been protesting. You said to them, water in 7 days, but that wasn't the case, was it?
Well, Clement, you'd realize that on the day we went there was zero water in the whole area. And over the 7 days that we had committed to, we had then started seeing quite an improvement in some of the areas in terms of water supply. And of course, our engineers and technicians went in and realized what are other options to help us to get full water, because the structural infrastructure problem in the area, which requires a long-term investment to change the entire pipelines in the area. So what it meant is that at least in that 7 days, we saw an improvement. We might not have had the full water supply throughout the area.
Okay, which other areas now still need to be attended to? I understand from what Eyewitness News has been reporting this morning that Joburg Water is going to begin this construction of a new pipeline this morning. So this is for these areas that have been affected, but there are many other areas that have not had water. What solution do you have for those?
Yeah, we are undertaking work in Westbury to do the cross connection from the pipeline of Crosby to ensure that at least we can provide more water in the area where there's no water. The Joburg Water has given us a report that there's sufficient pressure. We're also doing some work in Ward 66, Ward 118, where they're also experiencing water shortages, and it has been a bigger problem, which then meant that we have to rezone the reservoir, and the whole area will then try now and get them supply from the Uvel reservoir. So the Joburg water teams are on the ground working on the project to try and ensure that there's water supply. We are also experiencing challenges, real challenges in Ebony Park, in Ebony in Midrand, where they're also experiencing water shortages. However, we also went into that area to try and find best ways. And the best possible way in that area is to close the water at some point to allow the reservoirs to rise. And when they rise, we open the water. And we've agreed with the community that at certain intervals we will close the reservoir to allow for the levels to increase, and then we will open whilst there's still work that is being done parallel to that to ensure that we can restore the water supply in the area. So those are the three main areas where we are experiencing real water challenges.
When were you expecting to construct this new pipeline, the one that's been constructed this morning by Joburg Water? I mean, did it have to take the residents to protest for 2 weeks for this project to begin?
There's no project that has to start as a result of a protest. In 2025, this year in June, we set aside in our budget, when we announced the budget for 2025-2026, 800 million that we're investing in the area, because we're cognizant of the fact that the area requires an entire refurbishment. Remember, it's an historical problem. They've not had problems now. They've experienced these problems from 7 years ago. And that is why we took a bold decision to set aside this amount of money with an intention to sort out the whole area that is supplied by Hestil 1 and Hestil 2. So that is why we've put the money. We're also building a reservoir there, which will be concluded and handed over end of October, which is about 24 to 26 megaliters. So we are doing work in that area. It's just unfortunate as we are implementing the new programs, the interruptions immediately started, which then made us to look at other alternatives to provide water, whilst our bigger plan and program on the refurbishment of the entire infrastructure in that area is continuing. Okay. So it's just unfortunate that the protest came at the point where we're still busy with our programs.
So before this protest started, so 2 weeks ago, before the residents started protesting, was there a construction site? Was there construction of this new pipeline?
No. The pipeline is as a result of an intervention. It's not the solution. It's an intervention.
Which is what I'm asking. Why do we need that? So if that was part of the plan and you've already put an allocated money for this...
No, it was not part of the plan. Part of the plan is the refurbishment of Hestil 1 and Hestil 2 pump stations. That's the plan of what we have done. Now, as a result of no water in the area, last week then the engineers came back and said the possible intervention that could help us to provide water in the area is to then construct this cross connection from Crosby into that area. So that's what we are doing now, but it was not the plan. The plan is to refurbish Hestil 1 and Hestil 2, which will then ensure that moving forward, the whole area of Ward 82 and Ward 69 right up to Auckland Park, Emmarangia and Bryanston will not have interruptions into the future. So that's the plan, which we have budgeted for in this budget, and the work and the construction work will be starting. Some of it has started on the Crosby Reservoir. There's work that has already started there, and there's more work that will be happening at Hestil 1 and Hestil 2.
When can people expect water then? When are you expected to be done with this project?
We did indicate that this intervention may take up to 3 weeks, but we then agreed with the community that we'll give them regular feedbacks as the work is being done. We've set up a committee of 10, which will work with Joburg Water to ensure that we give detailed feedback and briefing as we implement and roll out the cross connection. But we have given ourselves a target of 3 weeks. But we are very careful on making an outright commitment, and that's what the committee also cautioned us against, that they would rather prefer us committing to giving them weekly updates until the project is concluded.
Okay. Parliament wanted you and Joburg Water to come up with a plan, a concrete plan in 14 days to deal with these water issues in and around Johannesburg. And I hear what you say as what has been budgeted, the kind of projects you're working at. Are you going to have a report to outline to Parliament as to what you are going to do together with Joburg Water to fix the water woes in 14 days?
The Standing Committee, one, acknowledged the Joburg Water turnaround plan and infrastructure plan, which is about dealing with the water infrastructure in Johannesburg. That's the first thing. The second part, they then requested us to provide a report within 14 days on the sweeping account to explain what does it mean and why the sweeping account has happened. So we are giving a report on that, and are also requesting us to give them the report on the updates in terms of water provisions in Johannesburg. They will not have given 14 days to resolve the entire water challenges in Johannesburg. It would have been impractical for Johannesburg Water to can give a commitment that in 14 days there will be no water challenges or infrastructure challenges in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
So all what they were requesting is the 3 reports to explain our strategy and the implementation of our turnaround, which of course that report will be submitted to the committee within the required 14 days.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, that if you're going to meet that deadline to outline what you are going to do and what the plan is. But how do you then explain, Mayor, because at the end of the day, as you heard in Parliament, what really was a deep-seated issue was the deep-rooted infrastructure failures, the issues around maintenance, aging infrastructure. I've already had a conversation with you when you joined us in studio about how much money is being spent on infrastructure. Treasury has always recommended, please spend at least 8% of your budget on infrastructure maintenance. As things currently stand now, how much are you spending on that as the City of Johannesburg?
Well, over the years, it has been hovering between 4 and 5%. We took a particular view in this budget, which I insisted on the basis, of course, of the arguments with National Treasury. So we have stressed it to just around 7.5%, with an intention that in 2026-2027 budget will then increase it to 8%, if not 9%. So that's the idea, because I couldn't get the budget to stretch it immediately to 8%. So I'd stretch it to about 7.5%. With an intention to increase it to 8% in the next budget cycle. But remember, there are competing interests that the city from time to time has to deal with it. But we have to ensure that we get to 8% by 2026 in terms of our maintenance budget, which I think we've made progress. And I'm encouraged that we are now sitting at 7.5% on maintenance.
Okay, where was the maintenance budget when the ANC especially was running the City of Johannesburg with an overwhelming majority? So over the last, let's say, 20 years, for instance, from your analysis of the budget over the years, where was the maintenance sitting at? Was it at 3%? Was it at 4% over the last, say, 20 years?
No, it was always hovering between 5%, 5.5%. But what is important is to indicate that when the ANC was in charge, they had also built a lot of new projects into Johannesburg, which they've invested into redressing what could have been the costs of apartheid spatial planning, and they had no choice but to invest in bringing up disadvantaged and underserviced areas to a certain level, including, for example, the tarring of Soweto. We took 4 years to tar the entire Soweto and other townships, which was an important program, so that you can at least uplift those communities to a certain level and redress the apartheid spatial planning.
Okay, so between 4 and 5% then. Because my thing has always been, what confuses me is when you speak to mayors and they tell you that, there are competing interests, that's why it's been a struggle to get the maintenance budget to about 8%. The issue, though, is even when you spend about 5% or 5.5% on maintenance, you're going to end up spending more money trying to intervene in instances where that infrastructure fails. So that's why you've got to bring in other companies to try and, close the gaps where there are issues with whether it's water or electricity infrastructure. Is that a fair assessment to make? That sure, you can argue that there are competing interests, some of the money has to go somewhere else, but at the end of the day, you're going to end up paying more because infrastructure fails and you need interventions in place.
Certainly, you're correct, Clement. And that is why, as the executive mayor just came in August last year, as we were preparing for this budget, I then insisted on taking the maintenance budget from the 5% to 7.5%, with an intention to increase it in the next budget cycle, because I was alive to the fact that the infrastructure remains overstressed, remains old, and requires refurbishment. We also had a plan in 2013, which was an important plan around infrastructure, which is a 100 billion infrastructure program in 5 to 10 years. Unfortunately, that program could not see the light of day post 2016. We are now re-agitating for a particular plan, as we have presented a turnaround plan of the Joburg Water and City Power, which the intention is to raise over 100 billion in the next 10 years to address the infrastructure. This would include expanding on our current capital expenditure, which is sitting at about 7 billion now, and we want to stretch it to 10 billion. It's sitting at about 8 billion now. We want to stretch it to 10 billion so that annually we can then be able to raise the 10 billion to 15 billion incrementally, so that we can address the infrastructure in Johannesburg, which requires serious intervention. Joburg Water requires just around 37 billion for us to be able at least to deal with the backlog and a bit of new infrastructure. So we are doing the City Power requires just around 40 billion also to deal with the infrastructure, so that into the future we don't experience infrastructure collapse.
Before I let you go, let me ask you this. You may have seen this over the weekend, Helen Zille being announced as the mayoral candidate for Johannesburg for the Democratic Alliance. I've received some calls from some listeners this morning who say, I would give her a chance. Are you shaking in your boots? Are you worried?
No. I'm not worried, Clement, but remember the ANC processes to select the mayoral candidate have not started. It will only be starting sometimes next year when we finish the selection of candidates for local government. At that point, I think we will then have to comment depending who the candidate is. But at current, I'm not shaken by any other candidate from any other party, including that of Helen Zille, because I believe that the program that we are currently implementing in the city, we are on the right track towards turning around the city of Johannesburg.
Dada Morero, thank you so much for making time for us. That's the mayor of Johannesburg. It's 24 minutes now after 10 o'clock.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
7:02.
In fact, I've got some WhatsApp voice notes that have come through. In fact, there's one. Maybe I have some time to play one, but there's a message here that I also wanted to read from Sibali, who says, Clement, which part of Soweto is the mayor talking about that they are tarred? Soweto roads are in a mess, just like in the Johannesburg North. That's what one person says on the 702 open line. Here is a WhatsApp voice note as well that's come through.
Clement, good morning, and good morning to the 702 lenders. The area of Coronation, Westbury, Newclere, Sophia Town, and I think Bosmont as well, has been struggling with water for years. For years. The ANC is doing it on purpose because it is not their ward. They don't care about what is happening there because it is a DA-run ward. I'm not a DA voter, but he's just making excuses. He's making excuses, and he knows it. He lied about the 7 days thing, and it's still continuing. There was no water this past weekend there. So he must just stop lying that water has come back. My mother did not have water. I was there last night.
Yeah, well, he's now saying that they are focusing on this new construction. When they announced that plan, they thought that would be the case, but they clearly, that didn't work for them. And that's the thing, when residents are angry and you make a promise to them, you need to stay on course and at least ensure that comes to pass. Otherwise, you're going to be in more trouble. Now, Joburg Water is constructing this new pipeline this morning, and apparently that's going to assist. That's just a temporary intervention. So let's see what that brings.